Violet was one of the more confusing characters to try to work out. I guess partly just because how it's written, and also like because how like basically how Masquerade work and how and when she gets all of her buffs and stuff. But like once you get to understand it, it's pretty simple. So the kind of goal with Violet is to put out all of your damage on the third turn of your cycle, which coincidentally lines up pretty well with Futaba. I think most characters are in fact designed that way. But this is a good highlight. It is a really good highlight of how like I think having certain A6 characters, it's really fun for me. And rather than it just doing more damage, for example, Wind is A6, having that extra follow-up attack, it's actually able to trigger the S1 from the dance partner for Violet, which is really important because then if you place more skill 3s into the fight, even though it might sacrifice the buff, it actually makes it stronger because you get more attacks from Violet. And that was one of the things I was talking about when I was like the guild boss run wasn't like exactly optimal because I missed the opportunity to actually run Wind's skill order, like doing. I did basically 2-3-2-3. I think I did 3-2. I don't know, but basically you can actually do a 3-1-3-3-1-3, meaning you do skill 3 and then skill 1 and then skill 3, and repeat that. You can effectively trigger one extra S1 at a cost of some buff on one of the lesser important turns, so it doesn't matter anyways, because in reality, yeah, all that matters is right here this turn where you do your triple or double highlight. And another thing as well is it's interesting that Chord is being used here, but not in the Guild Boss. I think one of the biggest reasons is because Guild Boss needs a healer, and it has to be Twins. And well, then why would we not run Chord and Twins? I think that it's because that the A6 Wind is just so good. It's actually very surprisingly good for Violet, more so than an extra highlight is. Her damage amp is quite insane. Giving you the crit rate and crit mult. The A6 allows you to then over cap that crit rate and just let you not care because, even though it's not necessarily gaining you anything, technically the Violet reaches her crit rate cap so easily, you really just get free benefit from the A6 at that point. And then, as I said, the auto S1 it's actually way more important than you think because, it makes Wind actually a really good dance partner. And on top of the buff, because otherwise you still need the Violet S1s in order to get your full stack of your step stacks. Your step stacks, you need to get 4 of them before you highlight, and that will drastically increase your damage. And so without the A6, Wind can't really do that as effectively. You'd need to skill 1 on Violet, or you do it different stuff, and it makes her a little bit less viable. But considering like at my investment level, for having that Wind A6, it's really, really strong and really, really good. And so that's that. And one of the most difficult things about this fight is trying to get defense down. One of the bigger reasons is just that Violet does not have any defense down on her kit. And so to reach the full shred of the boss, it's really hard. You have to use a lot of different wonder things, and I ended up figuring out that it's just much better to use your first cycle as your strong cycle with the Yanosic Rebellion and then the Kumokaten buff, rather than trying to do it, I guess, for the second half, seeing as all your buff is pretty much the same once you reach turn 3, and Violet really only cares about that turn 3. There was really no room to fill in dances, and I felt like that Neon Show was better using the second half with the Sonic skill, Sonic interference. Right, so that was the choice. It could be wrong, I guess. I never experimented trying to flip it around and use Marakunda on that side. I would doubt that the score is that different. It does have that Shirosha gives quite a good amount of defense down, so that's why I think the OC3 is quite very good. Even if it's only lasting 1 turn, the highlight buff on the signature skill it's still good. Likewise as well, it's like all the defense down knives aren't very good. Like you have the Starry Compass, which Violet and her team can't really stack the effect properly, so you actually miss the defense down on some turns. And then there's also the Arc Knife, which you need ailments. And while you can do that, like if you just use Vishnu, like because it like overstacks. The way it stacks, it's kind of weird. It's a little bit not different to how it might have been read. But yeah, it's still pretty awkward to use, and I did find that because the Glimmer at R5 just gives you so much damage multi, it's just very good. Yeah, I think this is super satisfying though, seeing the triple highlight come down from Violet, just clicking the buttons. It's I quite love that. So yeah, here's our first side score. It's a 528 million, which is pretty good. I think if my Violet stats were a lot better, they're not very good, and you know I need a ton of flowers that I don't have currently. The game just doesn't give you enough. So yeah, but we make do, and it works fine. Wind is pretty good. Got a lot of crit multi. So yeah, we had to make Futaba run Labor Resolve. It's actually completely fine because I talked about how Labor Resolve is. I don't like it very much because it has a turn of downtime when you're trying to use Futaba. The thing is now with Violet, how she doesn't really care about that turn of downtime because she's not doing anything on that turn as well, so it doesn't really matter. So Labor's pretty good in this case. And one of the good thing about Wind is like her set that she like needs to always run is like basically Prosperity, and they cannot stack. So basically, you just then if you're running Chord, you can just run Chord on any other set. I think Creation and Reconciliation is a really good set, and everyone should be using it. Now we're on this Rin side. Hooray! This side is terrible, and it was worse, I guess, at the very least, when An was used to fight Lilith. And now we have Rin. It's slightly better, and she is very straightforward. You press the big button, you do the skill 1, and then you can permanently use your big sword with fire. It's pretty cool. Now the thing is, Lilith freezes you, which is not Pog, and that's why you saw a cut there, to where I had to reset this first turn for quite a while until I found a turn where after this S1 does Lilith not freeze you. Now you would ideally like everyone to not be frozen, however, we're not in the business to reset for 2 more hours, unfortunately. And it is really no need, it doesn't really actually improve the damage all that really very much, but like yeah. So you just want Rin to not be frozen, and now we can proceed with the run. So part of trying to figure out this run was wondering like where to place the twins big mecha button from the A6. I kind of went back and forth from turn 2 and turn 5 quite a lot, and I did end up realizing or thinking that turn 2 is better. It's also, I think, ever so slightly safer, even though they will start breaking the shield. But yeah, if you wait until turn 5, you might just I think it's a bit easier to die. So one of the things about characters now, they just give themselves so much crit rate, and I guess maybe Rin not so much, but you just have to really be careful and mindful of controlling like how much crit rate you have, and making sure you do hit 100% though, because that's kind of important for characters now, because they have, you know, enough crit buffs to support it, rather than before they really didn't, the 1.0 characters. That's also part of the reason why 1.0 characters I think like or win so much, because you can give them so much crit multi that they desperately need, because they don't really have any of that, or even crit rate buffs in their kit. Like, also for some reason, because like Queen has so much Pierce, which is kind of like the opposite of what's happening here with like the newer DPSs, which is kind of interesting. So if you were to try to do the twin buttons on turn 5, that strategy, you would definitely need to not skip you need to skip a skill on the turn 1, and so therefore you're skipping a buff, And one of the things about Rin is that her highlight buffs her, right? And it buffs her for 3 turns, which means, and you always use it. If you don't have cord, you always use it on turn 2. And it will last for 2, 3, and 4. And on turn 5 will actually expire, that buff on the highlight. So I was thinking that you actually get more buffs, I guess, in total from using, I guess, focusing the brunt of your damage on the first cycle. Again, just like the first half. Except it's a little bit more evenly spread. I think you can notice that the Rin actually does more damage on the second half, even though that's without the twins A6. I don't know, actually. It's interesting to me. One of the most important thing is here you need to use a technical or apply an ailment. You apply an ailment here to break the midnight. I forgot what it's called, but it's a debuff on Lilith where she will take less damage. Well, individually, actually, ultimately individually take less damage for each of the stacks that you haven't depleted by applying an ailment, and that would be they get refreshed on turn 2, 4, and 6, so the even turns. And so if you have A6 and 4-8, very similar solution. This is kind of the opposite of the other thing. It's like, whereas it's like this makes the A6 makes the rotation brain dead, because you don't have to think about how do you break the stacks, you don't have to think about, you know, all the things. And in contrast and trade-off, it's just saying, hey, you're gonna reset this run a bunch of times because you're gonna get frozen. And so that's a thing, I guess. It could be, it's a thing. I did miss the part of the rotation to talk about it, but yeah, I did use Neon Show's the Sonic interference here. I do, like, it just, obviously I don't have time to try, you know, literally everything that's like theorized, but it's, in my mind, I think that because of like the twins, like A6 is the, you know, it gives like 72% defense, 71% defense down, and it's a lot of defense down. And so if you're trying to like use Marakunda to balance on the half that you don't have the A6, it's like way less. And yeah, the Sonic interference is much more. So I was just theorizing that I would need like overall less pierce on like my navigator and all the characters, and it did work out perfectly. To have the Neon Show, it's perfectly. If I had Marakunda, I would have had to like over pierce. I would have had to add more pierce on my characters, and I think that would have been lost stats, and I would have lost points overall. And I don't think you'd gain enough from the Violet side using Sonic interference. I could very well be wrong. It could actually be like better, but that's just what I decided to do, and it did work decently fine. On certain turns, I am checking the crit rate because I just wanted to make sure that the thing was right. So if I Revolution, that's enough crit rate to get me to 100%, and then I would just Taro Kaja or use the throne signature. I think the signature is a little bit better than doing a Mataro Kaja because of the burn that you get. It's like weird to me how good throne is. Like, he's almost competing against, and like better, yeah, in some situations like this, which I'm trying to use over like Yolanga, because I was trying to use Yolanga here, and there was also consideration of the Orochi, which gives you 25% technical damage bonus, and I guess some other personas. You can also use Koryu here as well, but none of that really beat Throne. Well, and the reason is kind of a little bit, I don't really understand it, because like, you know, if you just read his passive, it's 15% damage multi, which is a good amount, but it's not a lot, you know, and OC2. And it's outperforming a lot of things that like I feel like mathematically they shouldn't. So either I'm misunderstanding something about the damage formula or the way that it's written, or it's either written wrong or it's a little bit bugged. But right now, at the very least, I think for Rin, maybe it's because of my toy. I don't know exactly the reason why, but I just noticed the throne is really good. Like the buff is like on par with the Honest's, is on par with, you know, a bunch of other things. And the team is not even giving that much damage multi, sorry, crit multi either, right? It's giving a lot of damage multi because you have the twins, you have the Matoi, and then you have the Phoebe that gives so much damage multi already, and yet Throne is still doing that well, even though you have like this, you know, diluted pool of damage multi. So. And so yeah, currently with this total score right here, we just improved. We actually get number 1, and this should hold till the end of the season. So yeah, and thank you for watching.